You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
So as you might know, Washington State has some of the strictest COVID vaccine mandates in the United States. It's just gotten crazy here. I mean, just about every industry is going to be hit here. All the state, all the county, all the local government, everybody's just, you got to get vaxxed to keep your job. Except in Spokane County, and they're kind of openly using this as a recruiting pitch. Spokane County Sheriff's Office recruiting pitch, no vaccine required. So if you're coming from Seattle, maybe you're a state trooper, maybe you're a Seattle police officer, you're going to take a look at something like that. This is specifically the sheriff's office that's doing a recruiting pitch. And I'm impressed with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office because they're hitting it hard. They're the ones, part 2 of this podcast is going to be kind of reviewing. We did a podcast a while ago on the big billboard that Spokane County Sheriff's Office took out. We're going to revisit that one because these guys are going hard on their pitch, getting some experienced officers, and they're looking to do lateral hires, meaning they're taking experienced officers away from areas that, just wanted to do the whole defund the police and just basically crapped on their own police officers. Yeah, we're just going to recruit in those areas. I think that's genius. I mean, it makes total sense. If I was in real estate and if there was an area where people are, coming down on real estate brokers, you shouldn't be a broker. You're terrible. You're awful. You're just a scourge of humanity. I'd go recruit there because those guys are, if they're experienced and they've done some sales, I'd take them on. That's what we're talking about today. Spokane County Sheriff's Office, no vaccine required. And we'll give you a $15,000 signing bonus. I saw somebody sent me a link the other day. A plumbing company was offering a $10,000 signing bonus. And it was and it just wasn't a huge, great, big company, but that is becoming the norm because there's so much work out there to be done in some of these industries, especially the trades, that they are desperate to get bodies in. And police departments are desperate to get bodies in. And departments like Seattle and Portland and Austin, they're going to have a tough time recruiting because they've literally, just dumped on their own officers so hard. And it's become politically, being a police officer the whole thing has just been atrocious. But okay, before we jump on in, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies and I read the news from that background. You might like it, you might not, but you got to stay through to the end. All right. You know what? Right before we jump on in, I keep saying we're going to jump on in. I'm going to start reading some comments. Did a podcast on Weyerhaeuser here the other day. Weyerhaeuser has a big office space in Pioneer Square in downtown Seattle. And this is one of those things where public safety has been impacted by the number of police officers that we no longer have on the ground due to a number of various factors. But public safety in Pioneer Square, which is a really super old school part of downtown Seattle, it's cool. It's got bars. It's got a lot of office space. But Weyerhaeuser, one of the biggest employers in the state of Washington, or has been, the whole tree thing, cutting down trees, logging, and then the real estate that's left over. Weyerhaeuser, big presence here. They've got office space in Pioneer Square where they're basically saying, yeah, due to the crime there, we're not moving our employees back. Did a podcast on that. And somebody sent in a comment, and I'm going to start reading some of these because they're pretty funny. The decision by Weyerhaeuser move not to go back is a real shocker to me, talking about not going back to office space. I thought that when Seattle decriminalized crime, that it would improve the overall local business environment. Oh, you were misled there. This must just be some minor aberration. I know, right? I mean, things just got to get better on their own. And if you have fewer police officers on the ground, things are... they're going to get better, right? You got to have faith. I think people don't have enough faith. Weyerhaeuser's revised employee training program needs to step up with classes in karate, MMA, mixed martial arts, gun use, and etc. to adapt to the environment? I think they do. I mean, I think Weyerhaeuser is going in the wrong direction. They need to send their employees back and just say, you know what? In order to deal with the environment we've got here in downtown Seattle, this is how we're going to do it. You guys are all going to do a little karate chop action. No, that's not how this works, right? And that's what we're talking about. And yet that is literally something that is going on, is that we don't have enough police officers to make businesses in downtown feel comfortable or feel safe. And the environment we've set up for crime and homelessness and drug use and, just all that stuff, it's kind of like Seattle's become just a free-for-all in some of these areas. I always come back to that. So Spokane County, let's run back to Spokane County. Let's see what's going on there. Spokane County, and Spokane is other side of the mountains. It is a different world than the west side of the mountains here in Washington. Some states you've got that. Eastern Oregon is the same thing. It is, you kind of cross over the mountain pass here, you're going to see those Trump signs. It's all of a sudden, it's like night and day. You're like, where am I? What planet have I landed on? Because if you had a Trump sign in downtown Seattle, that would not work out well. So the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is looking to hire deputies, and its recruiting strategy includes telling potential applicants that they do not need a COVID-19 vaccine to work. What? How could that be? Because we've been told, if you don't have the vaccine, you might as well just end it all because you're not going to be able to do anything. Well, run out and get the vax because, your whole life is going to hinge on this. So you don't need the COVID-19 vaccination to be a deputy in Spokane. No mandatory vaccination required. It's displayed in the middle and the end of the 30-second video advertisement on Twitter at twitter.com/Spokane Sheriff. They're probably going to pick up some deputies doing that. I don't know if that's enough of a pull on a $15,000 signing bonus. Is that enough of a pull to make a move to go work in Spokane? Maybe if you were considering Spokane already, one of the things about Spokane is it has some pretty affordable housing. So if you're looking at staying in the state of Washington for whatever reason, you're nowhere close to the West Side employment centers, but Spokane's got its own thing going on. It's kind of its own it's got its own employment center and it's got its own pull and it's got its own sheriff's office, right? So Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich said those parts of the ad are not intended to attract unvaccinated law enforcement officers, such as the 74 Washington State Patrol troopers out of a job because of their failure to comply with Governor Jay Inslee's COVID-19 mandate. We're not looking to hire those guys, or gals. But if they were to slide a resume in the DMs, maybe we could talk. Maybe they could talk. Maybe they could talk with Sheriff Ozzie. State employees had until the end of Monday, 3 days ago, to submit their COVID-19 vaccine record or lose their jobs. So we had a bunch of state troopers. They said, we're kind of out. We had 6 Seattle police officers and 103 police officers ask for exemptions, and whether or not they'll be able to get accommodations, who knows? So it's significant, and there's a significant number of law enforcement agents that are in that touch and go period where they are either fully separating or whatever it is they're doing, because our mayor here, Mayor Durkin, has not indicated whether she will outright fire the police officers, the Seattle police officers who haven't provided proof of their vaccination. It's a fluid situation. Let's go with that. And the right wing media has been 400 officers are going to get let go, and the mayor, kind of on the further left side of things, has said only 6. And then other, right wing media has said that's a misrepresentation. That's misleading. All right. It's a considerable number. It's not as many as we thought might have happened or were portrayed in the media. But any cop at this point in time, any sheriff at this point in time here in Western Washington that we don't have, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And we haven't had loads of police officers in Seattle for years and years and years because we're going the wrong direction with that equation. Spokane County doesn't have a vaccine mandate, Knezovich said. We don't fall under any vaccine mandates. Therefore, we're letting people know that we don't have that. And there are a lot of agencies that are about to lose a lot of police officers because they are mandating a vaccine that some are very, very opposed to taking. The ad on Twitter includes hashtags for WSP, for Washington State Patrol, Washington. Okay, we get that. And the hashtags for Washington, Seattle, and Portland. Portland and Denver were other areas that that Spokane is marketing to as well. Because, like I said, if you've got an area where people are getting hammered on in their profession, like in Seattle and like in Portland and like in Denver and, Minnesota and a bunch of other areas of California, go recruit there, because those are people that are like, I think I might just take a peek, see what somebody else has got going on. And I think the affordability of housing issue in Spokane, I can see that making a lot of sense, because you're over, you're on the other planet, you're on the moon over there, as far as being not under the nonsense going on here in Western Washington. It's just a different world over there. So on a police officer's salary, you can have a way better quality of life over there, and people aren't going to hate you. They're actually recruiting to try and get folks in. Knezovich said his sheriff's office is receiving great interest from the San Diego Police Department officers. I think they pulled in like 4 from there. Is that correct? Did I read that correctly? I can't remember. But it seemed like the Spokane, I should know this. I should do better fact checking. But a lot of these are storylines. So it's not like I'm saying, this is the deal. I'm more reading trends of what's going on. That's a nice way of excusing the fact that I couldn't find the one article that I was trying to find on. I'm pretty sure Spokane has hired 4 officers, and they're like, hey, welcome aboard. Knezovich said that he is vaccinated and recommends others get the COVID-19 shot to protect themselves and loved ones, but he called vaccine mandates counterproductive. He said people should be able to make their own decisions on whether they get vaccinated. And I think that's the boat a lot of people are in. Hey, if you've got somebody in your family that's old, or somebody that's got some kind of health issue, or, study just came out saying if, the obese are impacted greater, and we've kind of known this. And that's been one of my things is, where's the enormous push to get people healthy so that their bodies can fight off this virus? Where's that big push? Where's the big push on gym memberships and eating right and, eating less McDonald's? Oh, what? We can't have that. That would come under fire, wouldn't it? We got to have our McDonald's even in the morning. Got to have breakfast all day, right? I have not eaten at McDonald's in a long time, but when I do eat there, I get the 2 cheeseburger meal, and then I have the fries, and, it tastes delicious for a half second. And then afterwards, you just feel not good. It just makes you feel, I just don't feel that great. That's me anyway. That's my reaction. So the Spokane sheriff said he's looking to hire 20 deputies, 10 who are needed immediately, and another 10 deputies who would replace 10 who are retiring by next year. So that's some of the thing in recruiting with police officers. You've got these police officers or deputies that have all this experience, and then when they retire, you're bringing in new recruits. So what Spokane County is doing here is, they're trying to do a lateral hire from another agency, and that makes total sense. But it feels like if you're like HR at the police department, whatever that looks like, would they even call it HR in the police department? I have no idea. I'm sure they do something like that. Just trying to retain your police officers, that's just got to be a nightmare. You got to go in and hand in your paperwork, or you email your paperwork, or whatever you do. That person's like, oh man, another 2 this week. We had 3 last week. Because that's how it goes, right? Just over time, there's more and more folks. And some of them are just some of them, this is their time to retire. They've got their however many years. And you've always got that retirement, crew going out the door. And you're supposed to have a new crew coming in. But in the meantime, you're just short-staffed. So, I mean, it's like a lot of industries. It's like the trades, plumbers, electricians, just everybody in that industry. They've been going hard for so long. And it's like, our genius president saying, well, I'm going to lean on the private sector here, and we're going to try and get this supply chain really worked out. It is what it is. You can't work 25 hours a day. You can get some sectors to maybe step up a little bit, but it's not going to be much. It is what it is. You shut down the economy. You brought the economy back. You're going to have some massive waves in the meantime. So, and we're experiencing those. And one of the comments that I loved was Press Secretary 𝒆𝒂𝒕𝒕𝒍 saying she was talking about the delayed treadmill. What was the quote there? I mean, it was a funny quote. But when you started to kind of dig deep on it, you're like, that is fairly tone deaf. How did you come up with that? And the quote was, the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed, or the tragedy of the delayed treadmill. It's not just treadmills. It's everything. It's everything. So what about somebody's, medicine being shipped somewhere, or something like that? Food? How about food? How about clothing? When you say treadmill, which is completely an optional item, right? I mean, you could go outside and walk. There's that. But not all the stuff that's coming in on ships and shipping containers, not all of it is a treadmill or exercise equipment. And yet that is how, current administration is downplaying the significance of this crisis, because they have so many crises going on. Is the $3.5 trillion plan and the $1.5 trillion plan, are those going to go anywhere? Are those just going to get cut down to like nothing? Are we going to be under $2 trillion on that big one? Yeah, probably. I see Joe Manchin he's doing work. He's like, yeah, no thanks. I'll pass on your $3.5 trillion plan that kind of hammers on or the infrastructure one. He's just standing tall and doing his thing. And then yesterday there was a news story that came out that he's going to be leaving the Democratic Party. I mean, just the media is glomming onto a whole bunch of just distracting stories so that we don't have to focus on, the supply chain crisis. That's not going well. How about the Taliban? How about we talk about, no, we got to divert our attention elsewhere. So the Spokane sheriff said he has already lost several deputies because of Washington's new police reform bills. Yeah, that's not good. They did nothing but hurt the public safety of this entire state, Knezovich said of the reforms. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on the reforms down in Portland. Not a deep dive on the actual reforms themselves, but some of the crime happening. So we had Antifa basically just went bashing windows to the tune of about 500,000, maybe 600 grand. I've seen that estimate. Whatever it is, say it's 500 grand. And Portland Police Department didn't do anything about it, and it has to do with House Bill 2928. And the police department's like, yeah, the way we interpret this House bill is that we're not going to get involved. And those peaceful protesters, they're going to kind of do their own thing. We will be there, but we're not intervening. And so for that $500,000 in property damage, there have been exactly 0 arrests. And this is going to be a thing, and we're going to talk about that. And I've got some input from current Portland police, Ronnie James Dio, and others who send in emails saying, here's the deal. Here's what's going on. So we're going to talk about that. I just haven't gotten all my stories together. So here's a second story. Spokane sheriff targets major Western cities with recruiting billboards. And we talked about this maybe a couple of months ago. But this is literally taking the recruiting to the streets. I like it. I mean, it's direct. Whether it will be effective, I don't know. Spokane County Sheriff's Office is looking to hire away experienced officers from big police departments in Seattle, Portland, and Denver. What I don't like is that you're thinning already thin ranks, and it feels a little bit brutal if you're sitting in a city that's having that happen to it. But you know what? If that's the case in your city, you probably need to make your vote count when the time comes at the elections, because the folks that we have on our city council and the folks that we have sitting in our political positions here in Seattle, they got voted in somehow, right? So if you don't like what's going on, otherwise you just got to deal with it. So we're dealing with it. Seattle's dealing with it. And it's not going on. It's not going all that great. I think my next podcast is on, we've got a little scenario going on here in Seattle on Aurora Avenue North, which is north of downtown. We've got somewhere between 30 and 40 prostitutes working actively. They're active enough where there are entire YouTube channels set up on it now, where they just do drive-bys and just kind of show. And you've got cops on the streets there, and the cops are doing the best they can. They are making some arrests, but let's be honest, with all the other stuff going on, the word on the street is that, hey, it's a free-for-all here in Seattle. That's bottom line. There's not enough law enforcement to go around to actively deter this type of crime. So if that's your thing, come to Seattle. There's a recruiting pitch, right? You won't get arrested. And even if you do get arrested, you won't do any time. How's that for a recruiting pitch? Times are tough, right? You got to do what you got to do. Spokane County Sheriff's Office latest recruiting tactic is turning heads in several major Western cities. And this article was from a number of months ago, April 2021. We put up billboards in Portland as close to the police precincts as we could get, saying $15,000 signing bonuses. We're hiring 40 lateral deputies. We want you, said the Sheriff Ozzie. This guy's going in. He's going in. Hats off to him. I mean, business is business. You need to bring folks in. If you got to go after another department and agents want to come, and I said agents, they're not real estate agents. They're law officers. It feels weird to have recruiting go on like that. But if you think about it, makes sense. It's a business. Law enforcement is a business. And man, we don't have enough employees right here in Seattle. It's no accident that the cities he's targeting are largely liberal and have had some of the largest protests calling for major overhauls to policing. Their leadership in those areas, either political or law enforcement, have not stood behind their law enforcement, have actually gone out and talked about defunding and all that stuff. We did. And now we've got that whole refunding thing happening, right? It's like, that whole defunding thing. Yeah. No. We need to hire more police officers. And yet there's still some hardliners in these cities, and they're like, oh, defunding's got to happen. I mean, this has got to happen. It's like, what world are you living in? Oh, you're spending $70,000 on your own personal security. I get it. That's a storyline. Have you heard that one? Yeah. So the sheriff of Spokane says it's usually hard to convince people to leave well-paying jobs in big cities, but he believes the current political atmosphere creates a unique opportunity to poach top talent. That's what it feels like, right? It's poaching. I've had brokers poached from me. I've had appraisers poached from me. It kind of goes with the territory. You have a good agent. All right. They get offered something else. And sometimes they come back. I had a broker come back last week or this week. I can't remember. He got told one thing by a big company here in Washington State that's basically buying up the market. He got told one thing. He was promised one thing, a certain set of things that were going to happen for him as a real estate broker at that new company. Yeah. The whole HR pitch, it it didn't pan out. He came back. Sometimes that happens as well. Would you work for a place that didn't like you, that didn't respect you? Yeah. How much money are we talking about? No, honestly, I mean, there's some of that, but I think the older you get, the more you need to, the less money is important, although it's still important, and the more you got to be doing what you want to do and what you feel comfortable doing. And if you're an experienced police officer, maybe you're halfway in your career, maybe you're 2/3 of the way through your career, you want to finish out strong somewhere that respects you, where you don't have the nonsense that's happened here in Seattle, happened in Portland, and happened elsewhere. Would you stay there? He said, and they're not. They're leaving, and we want to get the best of the best from them. Ozzie, Sheriff Ozzie, you're going right to the crux of the issue, aren't you? We're doing lateral hires. We're doing billboards. Don't have to get the jab. Come on over. 15 grand. We're your department. That's tough to say no to. Tough to say no to. All right, so let's look at the billboard advertisers' $15,000 signing bonus to lure Austin police officers to Washington State. This is an Austin article. And so it's kind of from the standpoint of, they want to take our cops. So a new job recruitment effort could stretch resources at the Austin Police Department and other nearby agencies even thinner. They're doing the $15,000 billboard, and, it's happening. Those jobs are in play, especially with King County and Seattle Police and Washington State, all just having their moratoriums, or not moratoriums. They're having their vaccine mandates. And there's going to be some folks who are like, I think that needs to be a personal choice. Therefore, I'm going to look at other agencies around that might pay a little bit less. Maybe their housing's a little bit more affordable though, but that they're headed in the right direction. They're not doing the crazy stuff that King County's doing, and the counties around here. They're doing the same thing. It's basically Western Washington in general. And in like a month, I think, is it a week? Yeah, October 25th, we're going to have a mandate that you have to be vaxxed to go into a restaurant or have a negative test. It's just going to be a cluster. And you know what? Most restaurants over in Seattle, they're going to enforce it. Restaurants over here on the east side, they're going to do a token effort of, hey, can I see your vax card? Yeah, that looks roughly good. Next, come on in. They're not going to turn away business. This is a terrible time to be doing that, making it mandated for jobs, because we're in a position with the labor shortage. It's not a time to be firing cops, not a time to be firing state troopers. It's just not, or sheriffs. This is a terrible time to be doing that, but it's a really good time to be recruiting. And if you're going to go in, $15,000 signing bonus, all right. That's not crazy huge, but it's enough to turn somebody's head and go, oh, hey, new used truck? Yeah, maybe. A few quarters of school for my kid at some college. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Or, hey, I've just been looking at making a move. You're going to pay me 15 grand? Okay. Let's take a look. Let's see how that goes. So, yeah, these are just nutty times. When you've got agencies advertising like that and putting the word out, just kind of going those directions. And then you've got local politicians here going, we don't know if we're going to fire him or not, but this is just what we're doing right now. Okay. As crime continues to soar. Whatever. All right. Yeah, that makes total sense. It makes as much sense. So, citizens of Seattle, if you want to make a change, you need to do that at the polls coming up pretty soon. You've got the option of council members. You can vote some council members in that aren't quite so crazy. You've got city attorney. That's a good one. We've got an abolitionist, and we're going to talk about that some, because we've got an abolitionist. Literally, it's made some very disparaging comments on Twitter regarding the police enforcement and law and order. We've got that coming up for a city attorney versus a pretty normal attorney. Might even be Republican? We never say that word on this podcast because they're never in the news. It's always the left side. Yeah, we're doing stuff here. All right. That's it for me on this one. Spokane, do your thing. Yeah, it's a wide open market. That's it for me on this one. We'll catch up soon. Till then, stay safe. We'll talk then. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.